and another one, and another one. Ooh, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're filming a video. I'm covered in confetti. Let's do this. What is going on, everyone? How are you doing? I hope you're doing good, because it is good to feel good. And I do realise it has been a very long time since I said those famous words, and in fact a very long time since I've sat down, filmed a video, uploaded a video. In fact, now that I think about it, it's coming upon 9 months. Nearly 9 months to the day. So for all I know, I could have been pregnant in April. I could have found out I was pregnant in April, and I'm just about to have a baby or something in January. But no, that's not the case. I guess really to kind of get it off my chest, the reason why I haven't been uploading this year is because of, you know, this year and, you know, all the things it's thrown at us. Because yeah, we just, you know, we had all these things that we thought, oh yeah, everything's gonna be lovely this year, and you know, new year, new decade, and of course just, you know, 2020. If you thought 2016 was bad, you know, with everything happening like Brexit, Trump getting elected, and you know, like all the famous celebrities dying, well, 2020 has taken that and said, hold my beer, because this year has been a mad one. And I'm not just on about, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic, but yeah, it has just been a mad one in some places. Throughout this time, I didn't really think that I would have much to offer in terms of, you know, what to comment on in, you know, videos and that, and I just didn't think it was, you know, the place to, you know, be positive really. I just thought, you know what, take a step back from it all, and then, you know, when I'm ready to resume myself, then I can, you know, come back and feel quite rejuvenated, I'd say, and, you know, hopefully going into 2021, you know, can offer a bit more optimism, I'd say. So yeah, so I guess what I want to get across with this video is that even though this year has been quite mad in some places and has been quite unfortunate in some places, I've stayed, you know, my optimistic self throughout, and yeah, and that's kind of how I want to do this video. I should quickly mention that for this video, this is going to be like my end of year video. I'm not going to be doing a 2020 end of year compilation, because if I'm being completely honest, I've not really got much to offer, and considering I haven't filmed in that interlude period between April and now, there's just nothing really to offer, to be honest. So yeah, so I guess really if I was to do an end of year compilation, all that would be in there is my trip to Japan at the start of the year. But anyway, so starting off with all this, I don't think anyone would have anticipated, you know, coming out of 2019, how mad this year would be. So it's just like, you know, we were all setting ourselves up for, you know, new year, new me, all that nonsense, and you know, a new decade as well for that matter. And then it just suddenly hits us, you know, we start hearing the news about, you know, this virus that's showing up, this coronavirus that's showing up in China. And then all of a sudden, you know, country by country start declaring that, you know, they've got, you know, their first cases and that. And I thought to myself, yeah, I think we'll be all right. We know what we're doing. But then as the months went on, you know, more countries were declaring more cases, and you know, some countries were starting to go into lockdown. And then it was like, I always remember around March time, I was on a little business trip in London with my colleague. And like, you know, we thought to ourselves, is this really the right decision to do? Because this was literally just a few days later, they told us, you know, do not travel for anything work related unless you are working in said places. So yeah, we couldn't really, you know, go outside of our places. And then eventually then it was announced, you know, lockdown, a full-on lockdown. And I can always remember I was going off to see my friend Ethan and a few of our other friends for his birthday, and we were going to go on a night out clubbing. But then of course when they announced lockdowns happening, that's just completely out of the equation. So I was like, yeah, it's a bit of a bummer, but we'll make the most of it. And sure enough, like this year is where like Zoom has been all the rage, because you know, we start doing all these things on Zoom, you know, having little Zoom calls every so often, and it's actually quite nice to do all of that, to be honest, because even though we're not able to see our friends, you know, face to face and, you know, in the flesh, at least, you know, we're able to see people on a little screen and, you know, interact with them and that. I know it's like this is the new normal until things become a bit more, until there's a bit more clarity, I'd say. And of course it was around this period as well where, you know, places were told they would have to shut, so your non-essential retail, entertainment venues, sporting venues, you know, hospitality venues, they were all being told, yes, you can't physically open with us being in lockdown. So yeah, so as a result, people were being furloughed. Some people unfortunately lost their jobs, although I would say that I'm quite fortunate in this scenario in the sense that I've actually kept my job throughout this pandemic, and I've more or less been working throughout. I've had little breaks in between, just, you know, give myself some time. But yeah, this, I know it has been mad in some places, and, you know, it's actually been quite nice to, you know, to continue working, and I tell you what, I actually feel quite comfortable working in, you know, a place like I do. So for those of you who don't know, I've been working at I work at my local co-op. I've been there for the past 5 years. In fact, now that I mention it, in September I celebrated 5 years with the co-op, and they gave me a little career celebration award, you know, an award of recognition for my service. So I'm really quite thankful for that. I know there have been some periods and sometimes where, you know, you get you know, arsey customers, you know, who aren't following the rules or anything, or even at the start of this, you know, when people were panic buying, and it was just like, can you not? We need to have enough going around, for Christ's sake. So yeah, no, people eventually, you know, were being responsible and, you know, only buying what they needed, and also limiting what they needed as well. So it was nice when things were starting to come back onto the shelves again, to be honest. But yeah, it has been a crazy year, and even in the last few weeks in the lead up to Christmas, it's, you know, it's always busy around Christmas, but because of this going on as well, it has been a little bit more crazy. So yeah, we got through it, you know. We're at the bitter end, or the lager end, of this Christmas period. So everything's winding down and in the lead up to New Year now. So this, I'd say, you know what, it's been productive this year. It has been tough in some periods where, you know, just, I don't know how to describe it, but just when people are being right arsey to us, you know. In fact, I shouldn't really mention this, but we've had a fair few Karens this year because, of course, it like, for one reason or another, and I had one, in fact I had one a few weeks ago. I shouldn't really be discussing this, but you know what, I love, you know, shining some light on the Karen, because I'm sure it's the attention they love to crave. But basically, I was serving them something, I was doing a service for them, and then they told me, oh, but you didn't tell me this. And I was like, well, no, I shouldn't have to tell you this. You could find that out for yourself. And then she was like, can I speak to the manager? No, she's not in. Can I get a phone number? No, I'm not giving out that information. Well, I'm gonna make a complaint to you to head office. And do you know what? I just said, we've had a lot of complaints this year about, you know, things, you know, going on. But of course, I just said to her, yeah, complain all you want. I'm not really that fussed. So I don't know what happened in the end, but just, you know, I said it how it is. We've had, you know, we've had to put up with a lot this year, but it's been tough in some places. But you know what, we've been getting through it. You know what, me and my team, we've been getting through it with that spirit of, you know, us pushing on through, and, you know, being there to serve, you know, the community at large, and, you know, have them provided with stuff, you know, providing a service. That's what I like about this, and it's just been very, very nice to do so. Sorry, I might have been stumbling over my words there, but it has been a tough year for us there, but you know what, we've pulled through, and I'm quite proud of that. Sorry to shy away from something like completely so sudden, but something to shy away from is, and I thought I was going to discuss this in this video, is the government's response to this pandemic, because I don't know how else to word it, but it's just been trashy, it's been atrocious, it's scandalous, if I'm being completely honest. Like, a lot has happened. Like, you know, when the first case was identified in this country at the end of January, I thought to myself, you know what, that's the chance to isolate it and make sure it doesn't spread or anything like that. But of course, as February went on, you know, more cases were being identified, and then it got to a point where there was like loads of, you know, more and more cases. So to put this into perspective, just the other day, 41,385 cases, new cases were identified in this country, and that's the biggest it's been since, you know, this pandemic started in this country. And yeah, like even in the first wave, like, you know, during the first lockdown, you know, you were getting a few thousand cases a day, but because of this new strain that's about, the one that was first identified in September, remember, yeah, more and more people are getting it, and it's said to be, this strain is said to be more easily transmittable. And yeah, as I say, the government knew about it in September. Why the hell did they not do anything about it? I don't know. But yeah, going back to the government's response about this, it's just been bad, very bad. And like, you know, at the start of this, you know, PPE wasn't provided. You know, we didn't have an effective test and tracing system, and we still don't, by the way. And just, oh, it's been bad. It's just been bad. I don't know how else to word it without, you know, slagging them off, you know, like ruthlessly, but just, it's just been very, very bad. And I would love to do a video just saying how bad it's been, but you know what, I could be here for days. But I will say though, that even though there are some countries around the world that are getting to some form of normality now, like New Zealand, for example, Australia are getting there. I don't know where else, but you know, those are the two examples that always speak to myself. You know, they're getting back to some form of normality, and then we're still in this, so what the hell's happened? And the only thing I will say is that it's because of incompetence and a lack of leadership, and Boris Johnson is a muppet. He's an absolute muppet, and I find it baffling how, you know what, a year on from last year's election, you know, like, you know, he made all these promises to us and he's still yet to deliver on a few things. Obviously Brexit is, you know, going ahead as planned. We've literally just negotiated a deal because, yeah, it took all that time. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out with Brexit. But yeah, it's just been a weird year for the government, and they've obviously it has been tough, but you know what, they could have handled it a lot better, is all I'm saying. Although, kind of changing the subject really all of a sudden now, is how across the pond with Trump, and I don't really want to just get into much detail, but like, how they've handled it is, if you thought we were bad, look at them. Look across the pond. Trump's just been, you know, for the longest time he was saying this whole thing's a hoax. Like, you know, earlier this year he was telling people to use UV lights and disinfectant to treat the virus, and just offering all this nonsense and that. And it's probably because of some of these reasons, including, you know, racial inequality, climate change, the economy, all these things, all these contributing factors have led to Trump being told, yeah mate, you're not gonna be in a job come January. And you know what, that's one thing that I'm actually quite happy about this year. It's like this year's had all this, you know, like terrible stuff happen to it, and then we get a glimmer of hope in the sense that Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States. I know I shouldn't really concern myself with US politics, and it does seem a bit ironic to do so, but it is quite nice to finally have a bit of, you know, real leadership from across the pond. And you know, I'm looking forward to Joe Biden being president. I'm looking forward to Kamala Harris being vice president, not only the first ever female vice president, but also the first African American and Asian American vice president as well. So good on her, and good on the Biden administration. In fact, now that I think about it, it's less than 4 weeks now until inauguration, so do you know what? I can imagine this scenario where Trump's just been being forcibly pulled from the White House and, like, you know, throwing it. It is very much like the walking embodiment of a toddler throwing his toys out of the pram, because if he doesn't get his way, he's gonna riot, of course. As much as he likes to spin it and say that, oh yeah, I didn't lose the election, I got the most votes in, you know, US election history. Well, yes, that is correct. 74 million plus for a seating president. Doesn't distract from the fact that, you know, 81 million people voted for Joe Biden, and as much as, you know, Trump supporters will say, oh yeah, this election's rigged and that. Well, it's the same process every 4 years. Obviously this year's been different because of the pandemic, and more people have been likely to vote by mail. And of course, I don't know how the election process works in America, but of course, you know, states count votes differently. So like, they'll count the, you know, in-person ballots first, for example, and then they'll start counting, you know, absentee ballots or, you know, mail-in ballots and stuff. And you know what, that's, you know, contributed. I'm not here to speculate, but you know, that's how it's been done, and that's how the results have been told. You know, we've been told about, what, 46 times by this point. You know, Biden's going to be president in a few weeks' time, so I look forward to that. Anyway, on to another topic now, is about travelling. Now, of course, because of, you know, COVID-19 restrictions, it's meant that I've not been able to travel this year, which I'm actually quite gutted about, to be honest. And another thing as well is, like, if I'm being completely honest, you know what, I'm quite fortunate that I was able to go to Japan when I did. So I find that mad to think that, you know what, it's nearly a year ago since I jetted off to Japan on New Year's Day. And, you know, I had a great time out there, you know, exploring around Tokyo. That one day where I explored outside of Tokyo, and the highlight of that trip being going to Wrestle Kingdom 14. And it was so much fun. Like, I think my favourite matches from those nights were Will Ospreay versus Hiromu Takahashi for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship on night 1. A real great showcase for the junior heavyweight division. It was also one of Ospreay's last matches in said division before he joined the heavyweight division. I also really enjoyed Kazuchika Okada versus Kota Ibushi on night 1 for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And I love this presentation, like, over the last few years, how Okada is very much the final boss of New Japan. And, like, you know what, I mean, I know he's been IWGP Heavyweight Champion in, like, quite a lot in the last few years. It's nice to, you know, he's such a great wrestler, and, you know, he always brings out, you know, the best performances of the night, for example. In fact, that was one of the best performances of the night. And, like, there were so many points where it was back and forth. I actually thought Ibushi was going to win, but then, of course, Okada wins because, you know what, he's the final boss, and you know what, it's not always easy to beat the final boss. But yeah, no, that was crazy, that was, seeing him win. And then, of course, Tetsuya Naito, who won the Intercontinental Championship earlier that night, then setting the stage for night 2. And of course, on night 2, Tetsuya Naito did the impossible, unthinkable, and he beat Okada, and is now the double champion. In fact, he is even now the double champion at this point in time as well. So yeah, that was crazy, and it was quite nice to enjoy those 2 nights of wrestling, because I've said this before, like, Wrestle Kingdom is the Japanese equivalent of WrestleMania, and given the fact that just, you know, 9 months prior I was at WrestleMania 35 at MetLife Stadium, that was crazy in and of itself. But then, of course, you know, Wrestle Kingdom, the Japanese equivalent, is also crazy in itself, so that was really fun to enjoy. And then, now that I think about it, there was all sorts of, you know, travelling that I had planned for this year that unfortunately didn't happen because, of course, of the pandemic. So I was meant to go to Paris with a few friends back in May for Disneyland Paris. That didn't happen, although we did push that back a few months. And then I had a family trip that I was planning on going to for La Rochelle, also in France. That was in June, and unfortunately that didn't happen either. And then I feel quite foolish for booking this, but I was meant to go on a 2-week trip to California at the end of June. And I was in the really silly mindset, when I booked this in March, I was in the really silly mindset of, I'm sure everything's going to be fine by then, but of course, because of the pandemic, you know, spreading how it has, it's like, I'm quite glad I didn't go in the end, and I know I'm quite gutted that I didn't go in the end either, but you know what, at the end of the day, you've got to really put yourself first and, you know, not take any risks or anything, because I do understand that there are some people travelling at the moment, and, you know, some places it's safe to do so, but also you've got to, you know, take yourself into consideration, take your health into consideration, because the last thing you want is catching this virus on any place you go. So I thought to myself, I don't want to take that risk, so hence why I didn't go in the end. And then of course there was this trip to Paris that we were going to go on. Me, myself, Becca, Coral, Kieran, we were all going to go to Paris for Disneyland. And it got to the point where it was like 3 weeks before we were going to go, and I said to them, I don't really want to do it, to be honest, because, like, you know what, I'm all up for having a good time, but at the same time, I really don't want to take this risk, and I just don't feel comfortable going anymore. So I actually feel quite gutted that I didn't go with them. I understand, you know, there's a pandemic going on, but at the same time, you know, we've all got to take precautions. And I even said to myself, I didn't want to take any risks a few minutes ago, but I do kind of regret not going on that trip anymore. I was just worried about, like, you know, worst case scenario, I catch it and then I pass it on to other people and stuff, and obviously I don't really want to take the risk. And of course, obviously having to do quarantine coming back, I was fine with doing that, but there was just something about me that didn't want to do that trip. And I do feel quite sorry to Coral, Becca and Kieran for not doing the trip. I was looking forward to it, but I didn't want to take that risk. Oh gosh. But I'm sure, sorry Kieran, I'm sure there will come a time where we can do this trip again. I know you guys have done the trip already, but I'm sure you'd love to do it again. I'm sure there will come a time when it will be safe to do so, and I really do look forward to doing. One of my whole focuses for this channel is, you know, travel, and I'm actually quite gutted again that I've not been able to travel this year, but obviously because of the circumstances, I just didn't feel like it's worth taking the risk. So hopefully when things do calm down, you know, and, you know, once, you know, the vaccine starts getting rolled out, that's one thing I didn't talk about. I'll talk about that in a sec, but hopefully when things start to calm down a bit, then, you know, we can start, you know, doing traveling again. And I'm looking forward to going to all sorts of places when things, you know, come and there's a bit more clarity, and, you know, things are a bit clearer. That's one thing I wanted to kind of end off the video on, is of course the vaccine. So at this point in time, the Pfizer vaccine has already been approved for use in the UK, and in fact people are being vaccinated at the moment. I understand that for myself, I'm a bit down the ladder in terms of priority. I understand, you know, people who are prioritized to get the vaccine first, they do get that vaccine and, you know, get themselves immune, and then hopefully enough people can get immunity for us to, you know, start getting back to normal, I guess. I know it'll be some time, but we will get there. I'm hopeful, so fingers crossed for that. And to prove a point, I do look forward to getting the vaccine as well, because I know there are going to be some, like, you know, anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorists out there saying, you know, oh, they want to put this in you because the government want to track you, and oh, it's going to make your children go autistic or something like that, and all this utter bollocks. But if I'm being completely honest, this sounds a bit ironic when I say this, if the government were to track us, they would have done it a long time ago, because, you know, all our details, like all my personal details, are in a government database. I'm sure I'm aware of that. All my, you know, health records are on display whenever I go to a hospital or something. All my, you know, like, you know, they know where I live, they've got my phone number. That sounds really very much 1984-ish now that I think about it. But yeah, it would be a bit ironic that if they were to put tracking chips into the vaccine, then it'll be a bit more of an effective track and trace system than what we've got at the moment. Am I right? Anyway, to kind of end off this video, I thought to myself, even though this year has been tough in some places and has been quite unfortunate for some things we can and can't do this year, I think to end off this video, I have, you know, been optimistic throughout, and if there is one thing that I am quite happy / optimistic for, then I'm quite optimistic for the fact that I'm still got the ability to be able to, you know, communicate with people that I know. And it's quite nice that, you know, unlike say all these years ago where you can only communicate through letter or through like a broadcast of something or something like that. And it's quite nice that, you know, little things like, you know, on my phone I can contact anyone, on my laptop I can have, you know, little, you know, group chats or group calls with people and that, and I'm actually quite fortunate that I'm able to, you know, have people in my life who I can, you know, have good friends and, you know, have good fun chats with. So I'm really thankful for that. And to end off this video, I want to, you know, shine a little spotlight on my friends, and they are going to tell you some things that they have been happy / optimistic for this year. So yeah, I'll leave you in the capable hands of my friends.
Hi Ollie, something I have been very thankful for and has kept me positive and optimistic throughout 2020 is the birth of my little niece. She has just been the biggest ray of sunshine for 2020 and has, without even saying her first word yet, has kept me and a lot of my family going. So that would be the main one for me. Also, hope you had a good Christmas and a happy new year.
What's kept me happy this year is my friends. Now, I'm a naturally optimistic person, but this year there's been nothing to look forward to, and it has been a hard year. So whenever things were low, I said I always go to my friends and chat to them. I may even get a couple of laughs out of it, and I just feel so much better afterwards. So I'd be lost without my friends.
I am really happy and thankful for all my friends this year. Honestly, I didn't know how much I needed my friends this year, and although we haven't seen each other as much as we'd like to in person, all the Zoom video calls, all the phone calls, all the FaceTimes have meant so much to me. Like, I wouldn't have been able to get through this year without all of the squad and all of the new friends that I made this year. Honestly, the past 3-4 months haven't been the best. I mean, this whole year hasn't been the best, but the last couple of months just been madness. And without my friends, I really wouldn't be able to get through with this year. So thank you to the squad, thank you to the new people in my life, and hopefully 2021 will be a lot better than this year. And all my friends in 2021, I hope you have a good time.
Thanks very much, guys, for your kind words. I'm really hoping that, you know, within the next year or so we'll be able to, you know, all meet in person again, you know, have a great time with one another. That is one thing as well that I have missed out, is, you know, hanging out in groups. I did, you know, catch up with a few of them throughout the year in person, you know, when lockdown restrictions were eased, but I'm really looking forward to us all meeting again as a group and having a fun time. So that's my little bit for 2020 done and dusted. I hope to see you a bit more in 2021 and not kind of leave this channel in the dark throughout most of the year, because that would be cool. And in fact, now that I mention it, in March of 2021 my channel will be 10 years old, so we need something to celebrate that with. So I'm going to do something about that, and I look forward to seeing you guys then when we celebrate 10 years. So anyway, for one final time in 2020, goodbye, I guess. And I'm going to leave you with some advice, and that is always to, especially with this year, enjoy yourself, stay safe, and make the most of every opportunity that comes your way. Thank you for watching, and peace.